So, but also in the dynamics of this type of industry that I'm in today, it changes so quickly. I mean, literally every single day, we're getting another notification about a bill that's happening in Delaware that CBD and hemp is on the docket and may be thrown out of the state, or some other component of a hemp product is now on the chopping block. And so we're always kind of in this reactionary mode of kind of understanding where the business is. So another key aspect to really finding out and making sure that we have not only a good go-to-market strategy, but sustainability is not putting all of our eggs in one basket like CBD and hemp. So this is why we diversify into things like peptides, other nutraceuticals, health supplement industries, anything where there's regulatory aspects from a product level side of things. We've been able to expand ourselves into those different dynamics. So you're not putting all of those eggs into one basket, which obviously is critical for sustainability of the business.
Today's guest is Noah Fitzgerald. He's the Chief Revenue Officer of Qredible. Noah, it's wonderful to have you here today. Please tell us more about yourself and what you guys do.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, it's a pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your cast. I'm certainly a fan of what you guys are doing and what you're doing in particular. Without any further ado, my name is Noah Fitzgerald. I am a certified payments professional and CRO for Qredible. Qredible is a company, and I would call it more of a startup. Although we're 4 years old, we're really just now going to market, and we provide a compliance automation tool for the payments industry that really focuses on product level compliance management for both merchants and banks and payment processors that are doing payments for CBD, kratom, hemp industries, peptides, other life science industries, where there's a high level of regulatory compliance and oversight for those markets. And really, there's a massive gap in the industry that really doesn't allow for much automation of that management. And because of the dynamic changes that happens within the industry, if you're not following any of that, it's really regulated by the state. So every state has its own set of requirements and regulations. So you can imagine that trying to manage 50 states and managing all the compliance for all of that and managing the clients that are supposed to be maintaining that compliance to those states is a very difficult process. And without automation, it really becomes a black box and hole that most people can't find their ways out of.
Yeah, it sounds like there's never a dull moment in your world.
I've been in the payments industry since 1992. So I've seen my fair share of challenges and struggles and innovations and things that have shifted obviously significantly, including the launch of the internet and e-commerce. But, as I started getting into these higher risk verticals, my focus is really helping these businesses, really business owners in general, find their way to being the most efficient way possible so they can thrive. And as I've stepped into the higher risk categories, the challenges are just so evident and the dynamics of it are extremely difficult. But I'm also a very strong personal proponent of holistic medicine and holistic health. And I'm a big fan of CBD and hemp-based product usage to supplement with pharmaceuticals and trying to help those individuals move off of pharmaceuticals as much as possible.
Wow. Yeah. In my experience, those seem to be CBD and hemp specifically seem to be very like fast moving, fast growing industries.
Yeah.
I feel like especially in the last 12 months or so. How has that shaped your go to market strategy?
Well, that's a great question, Kristen. I mean, you're 100% right. The market has been literally exploding with new product offerings. You have now beverage manufacturers coming into the space as well with THC and CBD infused products. You've got all these different topicals and oils and vapes and all kinds of an array of products. It was crazy. About 12 months ago, I went to a show and for what's called the alternative to cannabis industry focus. And the number of purveyors, manufacturers, and product companies that were there blew my mind. I mean, literally thousands of different products. And these are all new companies and new products that have been coming to market. And really, to me, it's from a go-to-market strategy, it definitely has set the tone as to, we're definitely at a perfect storm of the timing of what we're doing and the challenges that we're solving is really a perfect alignment to the growth that's happening in the industry. How has that affected us as far as our growth and go-to-market strategy? It's been significant. We've actually had to kind of basically take a step back, retool the solution based upon where we really saw more of the problems lying, which is in the payments industry, and focusing our energies towards helping the front line of those payment processors manage the underwriting process of bringing in these new clients, because that process is completely manual today, when they have to look at the various aspects of the business that are very challenging to find, look through product details, look through the actual lab reports of every single product, make sure that they fit with the U.S. Farm Bill and that they fit the requirements for different states. So, in that capacity, our focus has really been more driven towards the people that are serving these businesses rather than these businesses directly. And that's resulted in a massive windfall of opportunities for us.
Yeah, it sounds like, it sounds like anybody in that space could be your customer, essentially. Everyone needs some sort of payment processing, merchant services. Is that correct, or am I off base there?
No, in fact, it goes well beyond just that. So, as a merchant selling a CBD hemp products, it's not just the merchants. When you get to the retailer or the e-commerce company that's selling these products, there's an entire supply chain that's behind them that also has needs for regulations and compliance management as well as payment processing. So you have distributors, manufacturers, agriculturals, the logistics companies, the payment processors, even getting a bank account. The bank has to go through these enhanced due diligence requirements because they have to make sure that you're not selling illegal products. So it's everything that touches the entire supply chain is in purview of what we do, which is, and that's something that as I've been brought into the company as a chief revenue officer, I was able to help them see this, working with entrepreneurs and startup businesses. Sometimes they get so focused and they're so close to the project that they lose sight of the scope of the opportunity. And as a revenue officer, my job and what I've always been good at doing just inherently is really looking at a broader picture and seeing where the opportunities might lie. And those outlier opportunities are sometimes much more valuable than where that initial line of sight is. So, that's another aspect that's really important when you're looking at your go-to-market strategies, is really considering these other outlying opportunities, and they could potentially come well into focus very early versus being on the sideline.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people sometimes think, well, not people, but business leaders sometimes see those outlier opportunities as shiny objects or things that kind of distract them from the mission at hand. So it's interesting that you're like, no, let's take a look at them. Have any of those outlier opportunities kind of shifted focus or made you like rethink go to market in general?
Absolutely. So, yeah, as you start really understanding who the client and the ultimate where the challenges are, and as you start really digging through the layers and really looking at these different outliers, you come into focus of things like labs. The labs themselves that are doing, what's great about the labs is they are touching literally every single product. So through a lab connection with the lab, you have access to 100% of the market. So, if your total addressable market is, call it 10,000 businesses, you can choose to go after those businesses individually one by one, or you can work with groups of partners or trade groups or organizations that will get you access to a greater number of those in bulk. You look at labs in this industry, for example, every single product has to go through a lab report. So those labs have direct connection to that client base. And they also have a challenge with managing and supplying those lab reports down through the supply chains. In kind of understanding and looking at that in a little bit closer fashion, we were able to fine tune a solution that's specific for that audience. And that then brings into not only a revenue perspective of generating revenue from the labs, but also for all of their client base as well, where they can actually now earn revenue on them referring clients to us, but also solve their systemic challenges in enabling a digital solution that's powered by our blockchain product to make sure that those lab reports that are getting funneled down to the merchants, through the entire supply chain, the distributors, the payment processors, the banks, they're tamper resistant. They can't be audited and they can't be fixed or manufactured in any way, which is another big problem that the industry is facing is, if I am a retailer and my bank comes to me and says, you need a new COA for this product that you've been selling for a year because it's expired. Now I have to go through and go up this stream, try to get another lab report. And that's a very time consuming process versus opening up a PDF editor, making a few changes, saving it, and then sending it over, which happens quite a lot. So that obviously is a violation of compliance and regulatory, and it's just unethical. So we've built that solution to stop that. And what that does for the labs as well is ensures that they're not privy to any potential lawsuits that could come as a fallout from that.
That Yeah, that this process sounds
Yeah, the amount of headness that it takes to think through all this stuff. But I am backed with a lot of very smart people in the business I'm in, and of course, having been doing this for many years, I play chess. I don't play checkers. And this is a game where you really have to be very strategic minded and think about those moves today and where they're going to land you in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, in some cases as well.
yeah, yeah. And as CRO and from the great sales background that you have, I think some of the things that you're hearing in my mind, that's like friction. I'm like friction point. But it sounds like you're taking a different approach. You're like, yeah, it could be, but like we can make a strategic move to kind of systematize this and make it repeatable. So I'm very impressed by the way that you explain this process and how you opened up other opportunities. So this is much bigger than I even realized. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. It's
and
very
and
cool to hear.
that's the that's the goal, right? Is to there's a lot of great products and great companies out there, and you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier as you're talking about chasing that shiny object. And I've been into situations where the leaders do chase these shiny objects, but it's at not the right stage of the company, or you're in product development and you're chasing another aspect of a product that isn't going to deliver the kind of result that they might be thinking about. So chasing shiny diamonds is in objects is a very it's a tough thing to kind of really weather and manage effectively, because in many cases those shiny objects could be extremely valuable and are very valuable ultimately, but it really depends upon where you're at in the current state of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. And in terms of trying to get in front of your customers, potential customers, what channels are you leveraging? What's worked well? What's not worked? Were there any surprises along the way?
Well, there's always surprises, but yeah, I mean, what's really worked well is and so the way that we really focus our business from a sales strategy is I have individuals that go direct to the merchant, because my philosophy has always been to use channel sales being partner-based relationships that have a one-to-many connection. So rather than, and that's really how I built success in my sales career as well, as going after the individual merchants and the individual business owners that are key to your product is certainly a ground level act that you need to do in order to get validation of a solution, especially if you're a new product to market. You get the feedback from the customers first, so you have to have that direct to consumer front facing focus. And so we do have one person that focuses on enterprise level sales, and our really focus there is the top 5% of the industry, and those direct merchants and those businesses that are typically very difficult to find through partner relationships. And partner relationships usually cover the masses, but not the largest key, the elephants, if you will, that you want to capture for the business itself. So we have one person that focuses there. I have another person focusing on government relations, because our product is very heavily focused on managing the compliance side of things. What we've realized and found is that in the regulatory aspects of this industry, not only do you have the FDA, the FTC, and other alphabet soup of federal regulators, but also the states. And every single state has their own regulatory requirements, but they're doing so without any automation, because this is a pretty new product in the industry, in the world. These states really not have systems. They don't have, most of them are doing things on paper, manual processes. They're not even intercommunicating between the states. So if you have a business license in Delaware for hemp, or a hemp license in Delaware, that information is not accessible or available to the hemp license or Department of Agriculture in Georgia, for example. So by helping the actual regulators solving these challenges as well is another aspect of where we're really focused very heavily, because as we can support them, it then gets the rest of the businesses into our ecosystem. But for me, from a sales development perspective, the channel sales is the most important avenue, and that is direct partner relationships and that one-to-many connection, where you have that opportunity to not only help that partner solve some problems and help them grow, but also help them generate revenue through revenue sharing models. So that ends up becoming the commission that you'd pay to your salespeople, but you now get an entire army of people out there driving opportunities into the business.
Yeah. Yeah, channel sales are critical, and when you can get it right, I think you have something really powerful there. So that's nice to hear. It made me wonder though, in terms of your ICP, What does that look like? Because we've talked about like how the hemp and CBD industry has exploded. There are a ton of companies that I think enter the market every day. But if you're trying to whittle it down and focus on, who you can serve the best and, who you can get over the line the fastest, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, it's really focused very heavily to the payment processing segment because that's where the vast majority of the opportunities are coming from. In general, I mean, that's a pick and place type of opportunity. What I can say, and I could provide some insight to is as a provider of solutions, you're typically not going to be the only company with that offering. There's going to be competition that you're going to be up against in developing these relationships. And what's really going to win you that opportunity versus the next guy is that interpersonal relationship that you can create and develop. There's the logic aspect of what our tool provides, how we're different, what the value it creates for you, for the client, your ability to actually, do the doingness. That is that's the logic side of things, where I really found and the greatest success with building these types of relationships is creating an interpersonal relationship. So, doing golf outings, taking out to dinner, meeting at trade events for a specialty event, having, conversations that really don't have anything to do with business, but allow people to really truly understand who you are as a human being, because that's what we're doing. We're really selling ourselves. We're, the company and the products are just an extension of what we're doing. And if our belief is that strong into what we're doing, what we're selling, and what we're delivering as a solution, yeah, and that's what really wins the relationships at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's so key too. I think especially now, I mean, COVID was, 5 years ago at this point, but I think people are still a little bit reluctant to travel and to go to in-person events.
Mm.
It's coming back. Like I think it's, each year it gets better, but yeah, it's always nice to hear about taking people out to lunch or, golf events and stuff like that where you don't actually talk about business. So that's refreshing to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And, in the post-COVID environment, so I've been working out of my home for, God, I would say a better part of 20 years now. So well before COVID. And I am well more of an introvert than I am an extrovert. I have a lot of social anxiety, so it's a challenge for me to go to even out to trade shows. And so, but overcoming that, there's always a reward for me coming through that and breaking through those different blockages that I have as a human being, to open myself up to be uncomfortable, if you will, and that usually shows in building that relationship. So, and even talking about those types of things, it becomes a commonality that is created because a lot of people feel the same way that you never even thought would be. Interpersonal relationship, even if it's done virtually, is still very important. If the people can't understand and who you are, both as an integrity, as an ethics, those are the dynamics that really play their biggest part.
Definitely, definitely. Are there any parts of your sales motion or your GTM engine that you feel still have a lot of untapped upside?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's always opportunities for improvement, always opportunities to do things a little bit better or different, to capture a different aspect of either revenue or opportunity. So there's limitations that we have obviously with product enablement and product features, and we have a massive roadmap. And we're as a technology company, we're constantly in development mode. So we have a constant roadmap that's in front of us, and as there's aspects and times when you have to deal with the patience. You see the opportunities there, it's there, you know that there's an opportunity to convert, but you have to be patient enough to just let things play out. So, but also in the dynamics of this type of industry that I'm in today, it changes so quickly. I mean, literally every single day we're getting another notification about a bill that's happening in Delaware that CBD and hemp is on the docket and may be thrown out of the state, or some other component of a hemp product is now on the chopping block. And so we're always kind of in this reactionary mode of kind of understanding where the business is. So Another key aspect to really finding out and making sure that we have not only a good go-to-market strategy, but sustainability is not putting all of our eggs in one basket like CBD and hemp. So this is why we diversify into things like peptides, other nutraceuticals, health supplement industries, anything where there's regulatory aspects from a product level side of things. We've been able to expand ourselves into those different dynamics. So you're not putting all of those eggs into one basket, which obviously is critical for sustainability of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are other booming industries as well. What role does content and education play in the sales process right now?
Huge. I mean, education is, educating people about, not only the problem, and a lot of people are just, they've been doing this in their own way manually for so long, they don't even realize that it's a problem until something shows up, which is at that point, now you're scrambling to try to find a solution. So there's a lot of education first about bringing awareness to these are challenges that people are facing, especially as we're talking to banks and payment processing companies and kind of working through and talking them through, having them realize in their own capacities that they have these challenges. The education side of things really is, I think, probably one of the most important aspects and one of the more challenging aspects that everybody has in sales. Unless it's something that's super obvious. You sell a widget that is, you're selling a vacuum cleaner. It's an obvious thing. But when you're dealing with technologies, it's sometimes a much more challenging thing to help educate the community as to what your solution is and and the values that it can bring. An example would be like Quicken's Rocket Money. Rocket Money is I've had experience in the fintech space building a very similar product. And the value that that product offers to consumers is absolutely massive. I mean, being able to have your entire financial portfolio in front of you with one single connection, not having to go to your bank for one thing, you go to your investment company, go to your coin, your cryptocurrency investment, into another thing, all of your loans, your any finance, all your credit cards, having that all in one space, there's a lot of value that can bring to a consumer to help them truly understand what their net position is and how these systems can be able to be used to help you better manage your financial life. So you wouldn't know that unless you can really be educated on how that product works and what its true intention is. And most people don't have time or are just not going to jump in because they think there's something else to it that is going to put them into a compromised position. So education is one of the more challenging things. And at Qredible, it's definitely a very challenged aspect of what we do. Getting the right audience is key, and being able to find that audience is really the hard thing to do. So, we have some great SEO mechanics on our business that are constantly driving us to get to the top search results based upon specific keywords that we've identified. And even that is that's still not enough ever. So it's a constant battle of making sure that we're, really being very focused on the right content, not making sure it's too wordy, too lengthy, too nuanced for the layperson to understand, which is also in its own right a challenge. When this is where AI has been an amazing tool for the industry and for myself to really ensure that as we're communicating, we're hitting the right talking points, but more importantly, using the right language that is not so uber technical or too congruous for a certain audience, that we're really focusing it towards who the audience is. And AI has been a fantastic tool for that.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite tools right now?
Um, you know, I'm kind of one of those root folks. I love the originators of the space, and I will kind of work with them and die with them. So ChatGPT is still at the foremost, but I've realized that it's really good for certain things and not for others. So I also use Gamma AI. Claude is another tool that I begin using for document reviews and actually creating documents, creating forms. Canva is another one that has some great AI tools. I mean, essentially now, even in Gmail, we have AI tools that will, help you craft an email. So the amount of tools that are coming out that are AI driven or have AI components to them is absolutely stunning and amazing. And it's really been powerful for us.
Yeah. Are you using AI to write like the content, and or I don't want to say right, but like using it to help you manage your content and education?
100%. I mean, the very first thing I do is when I come up with an idea or we wanted to create some content, as I will initially put it right into chat. And then from that, pull out, components, rewrite, put it back through the AI engine again, let it consume and kind of re-articulate things. The final posting and edits and copy that we put together, we always, do have a manual review of things, but, for the most part, AI pretty much does the most of the lift there. And this is, I've always been a proponent of being very efficient, not always doing everything the best way. Like even in high school, I would read Cliff Notes instead of reading the book because it was a faster way to get to the result. And so, any way that I can be more efficient with my time and help businesses create efficiency in the same way, I'm all over it. And AI is definitely a tool that helps change the game in that capacity.
It does. And I'm with you on using it to be more efficient.
Mm.
Well, last question for you. In terms of goals for the next 6 to 12 months, what's top of mind? What are you focused on? What are you looking to achieve?
That's a great and loaded question. So, there's personal, there's finance, there's health, there's relationships. Those I always have those aspects of 4 goals in my life. From a business perspective, our goal is to basically release our our second revision of our product to the market. That is probably the biggest challenge that we have to face. We've got a massive booking of clients that are already signed up, and we have to deliver a solution. So there's a lot of pressure there. From a financial side of things, that this year will bring really the first growth of our business. So last year we started very small, getting a couple of key clients. We're going to quadruple our revenue this year. And then really make sure that we're driving towards that goal. Another big goal for us is landing an updated investment round. So we're just going to be launching into a new investment round in mid-July. So this is going to be our first round of investing outside of angel. So it's our seed round. I think we've got all the tools necessary. Every component. We're already in revenue. We're not profitable yet, but we're not breaking even there at this point. But we're pretty darn close. And doing this all bootstrapped has been a really big lifesaver for us because we've been able to hang on to the equitable position of the business. Outside of that, it's really more personal, aspects of my health and relationship.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you're going to be busy the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I
There
call
sounds
next
like
3 years.
that's good though. It's always like, you have a goal, you achieve it, you knock it down, you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and celebrating those wins. I mean, that's one thing that a lot of people kind of take for granted is you have this big goal and you have all these little steps it takes to get there, but people don't take the time to celebrate the little wins. And those little wins are absolutely critical that you celebrate them, because without that, it just keeps on deflating you and pushing you into this bad place. So I've learned very, very early on that celebrating even the smallest wins is very, very important, especially when you're dealing with sales side of things.
Yeah, that's very well said. I think more people need to celebrate the wins, even the small ones.
100%. Absolutely.
Well, Noah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you today. If anyone wants to learn more about you, learn more about the company, get in touch, how can they reach you?
LinkedIn obviously is an easy one, Noah Fitzgerald, and then Qredible through my email there, Noah at Qredible with a Q, that's QREDIBLE.com, or visit us on our website at qredible.com.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been my pleasure.